I still remember the day like it happened this morning. The smell of rain outside my kitchen window, the sound of my old wall clock ticking too loudly in the silence, and my phone sitting face down on the table, like it was hiding something from me. It was a Sunday. My favorite day of the week because it used to mean one thing: family. My son, Daniel, always came over for dinner on Sundays. He used to bring flowers for me, even when I told him not to waste his money. I'd make his favorite chicken pot pie, and we'd sit for hours, talking about work, his future, and sometimes about her, the girl he was dating. But that Sunday, my phone never rang. The house felt heavier than usual, as if it already knew something I didn't. By evening, I tried to convince myself he must be busy. Maybe work. Maybe something came up with Emily, his fiancée. I even set 2 plates on the table, just in case he walked through the door and said, "Sorry, Mom, I'm late again." But he didn't come. When I finally called him, the call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. And again. By the 5th time, my hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the phone. I sent a text. "Hey, honey. I made dinner. Are you coming?" No reply. I waited all night. And when the clock hit midnight, I knew something had changed forever, though I couldn't name it yet. The next morning, my neighbor, Mrs. Lewis, came knocking. She was out of breath, clutching her phone like she'd just seen a ghost. "Mary," she said, her voice trembling, "did you know? Daniel got married yesterday." For a second I laughed. It couldn't be true. "What?" "That's impossible," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "He would have told me. I'm his mother." But then she showed me the post, Daniel and Emily standing in front of a white arch covered in roses, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. The caption said, "Married my best friend yesterday, couldn't be happier, ring red heart." My knees went weak. I had to hold on to the doorframe to stop myself from falling. It felt like someone had ripped the air right out of my chest. The first thought that crossed my mind wasn't why he didn't tell me, it was what did I do wrong? I'd been there for him his whole life. I raised him alone after his father died. I worked 2 jobs so he could go to college. I sold my wedding ring to help him pay for his first apartment. How could he forget me? I sat on the couch and stared at that photo for hours. The colors blurred from my tears, but I couldn't stop looking. He looked so happy. So free. And I wasn't even there. By evening, I tried calling again. This time, he answered. "Mom, I was going to tell you," he said softly. "Going to tell me?" I snapped. My voice was shaking. "Daniel, you got married. How could you not invite your own mother?" There was silence. Then he whispered, "Emily thought it would be better this way." I froze. She thought it would be better. My throat tightened. Better for who? He didn't answer. Just a soft sigh. Then he said, "Mom, I didn't want any drama. You and Emily, you never really got along. I didn't want to start my marriage with tension." I felt my heart breaking in slow motion. "Daniel," I said quietly, "I am your mother. I've been there through every pain, every dream, every single step. And now you're telling me that on the biggest day of your life, I wasn't even worth a phone call." He stayed silent. I heard him breathe, maybe even choke up a little. But then he said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I needed things to be simple." Simple. That word cut deeper than any knife. Because for him, simplicity meant a life without me in it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through Daniel's old room, the posters still on the walls, the trophies on his shelf, the smell of his old cologne still faintly in the air. I sat on his bed and cried until there was nothing left inside me. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that one phone call, would haunt me for the rest of my life. Because no matter what happened next, one truth would never change. My son got married, and I wasn't there. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet that felt unbearable. I didn't open the curtains. I didn't make coffee. I just sat there, holding my phone, hoping Daniel would call again. But he didn't. Days passed and my house, once filled with his laughter and stories, felt like an empty museum of memories. Every object whispered his name. His childhood drawings on the fridge, the photo of him at his college graduation, the sweater he'd forgotten last winter. I kept asking myself the same question: what did I do wrong? I replayed every moment between us in my head. Did I ever make him feel small? Was I too protective? Too involved? Or maybe, too lonely, and I made him feel guilty for it? It's strange how silence can be so loud. You start hearing your own thoughts as if someone's screaming them at you. 3 weeks later, I finally gathered the courage to call him again. My hands were trembling, my heart racing. I had rehearsed every word. I wouldn't cry this time. I just wanted to talk. He picked up after the third ring. "Hey, Mom," he said, his voice tired. "Hi, Daniel," I tried to sound calm. I just wanted to hear your voice. "How are you?" "I'm okay. Just busy with work, you know. And Emily's adjusting to the new apartment." There was a pause. I smiled faintly even though he couldn't see me. "That's good. I'm happy for you both." He sighed softly, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. "Mom, look, I know things were strange. I should have handled it better." I nodded even though my throat was tightening. "I just wish I'd been there, Daniel. I wish I could have seen you smile that day." He stayed quiet for a while, then said, "It was small, Mom. Really simple. You didn't miss much." But I knew that wasn't true. Because what I missed wasn't the wedding, it was my place in his life. We talked for a few minutes more, mostly about meaningless things. When we hung up, I felt emptier than before. Sometimes, conversations can hurt more than silence. That night, I sat on the porch, looking at the stars like I used to when he was little. He always said the brightest one was his dad watching over us. Now I looked up and whispered, "If you're really up there, please tell me what I did wrong." The wind didn't answer. It never does. A few days later, Emily called me. It was the first time she had ever called me directly. "Hi, Mrs. Carter," she said politely. I could tell by her tone that she didn't want to make this call. "Please call me Mary," I replied, trying to sound warm. She hesitated. "I wanted to let you know that Daniel's doing fine. We've just been really busy. New schedules, long hours." "That's wonderful," I said softly. "I'm glad you both are settling in." Then, after a pause, she added, "I also wanted to ask if you could maybe give him a little space for now. He's been under a lot of pressure, and every time you call, he gets emotional." Her words cut deep, but I didn't let it show. "I see," I said quietly. "I didn't mean to cause any stress." "I know," she said quickly, maybe out of guilt. "It's just, we're trying to start fresh, and he needs time." I wanted to scream. I'm his mother. I'm not some stranger you can erase. But instead, I whispered, "Of course. Tell him I love him." She said she would. But I wasn't sure she meant it. After the call, I sat in the dark for hours. My heart was filled with questions I'd never get answers to. The next weekend, I went to the local grocery store, just to get out of the house. And there they were. Daniel and Emily. Standing by the bakery section, laughing. They didn't see me. Daniel looked happy. Happier than I'd seen him in years. I froze behind a shelf, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to run up to him, hug him, and pretend everything was fine. But the other part, the part that had been bleeding for weeks, told me to stay quiet. I just stood there, watching him pick out a cake. He said, "You pick, Em. You always have better taste." And she laughed, touching his arm. I realized then, he wasn't my little boy anymore. He belonged to someone else now. I walked out of the store before they could see me. I cried all the way home. That night, I deleted his childhood photos from my phone. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I couldn't keep looking at the boy who'd grown into a man who no longer needed me. But mothers don't stop loving, even when they're forgotten. We just learn to love quietly, from a distance. A few weeks later, I got a message from Daniel. It was short. Hey Mom. Emily's birthday dinner tomorrow. We'd love for you to come. My heart skipped. It felt like a door I thought was closed had opened again. I spent all day preparing. I even baked Emily's favorite pie. She once mentioned she liked apple pie when she first came over years ago. I put on my best dress. I even wore lipstick, something I hadn't done since Daniel's graduation. When I arrived at their apartment, my hands were shaking. I stood outside the door for a minute, rehearsing what I'd say. Daniel opened the door, surprised. Mom, you came. He looked genuinely happy. Emily appeared behind him, smiling politely. Mrs. Carter, come in. The apartment smelled like vanilla candles and something expensive cooking. There were already a few guests, Emily's friends, none of whom I knew. I gave her the pie. I made this for you. Happy birthday. She took it, smiling tightly. That's very sweet of you. But as the night went on, I felt out of place. No one really talked to me. Daniel was busy serving drinks, laughing with her friends, barely noticing me sitting in the corner. At one point, Emily's friend asked, "Oh, are you Emily's aunt?" Before I could answer, Emily quickly said, "No, she's Daniel's mom." The tone in her voice, soft but distant, said everything. I wasn't unwanted, but I didn't belong either. Dinner passed like a blur. When I got up to leave, Daniel hugged me. "Thanks for coming, Mom," he said. It meant a lot. I smiled. "I'm proud of you, Daniel. Always will be." But as I stepped out of that apartment, I realized something painful. He didn't walk me to the car. He didn't ask if I got home safe. He just closed the door. And the sound of that door closing felt like the final note in a song that had played for too many years. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I went through old photos, Daniel's first birthday, his first day at school, his wedding picture that I wasn't in. I stared at that wedding photo until my eyes hurt. And I whispered, "I hope you're happy, my son. Even if I'll never be part of your happiness again." Because sometimes, love isn't about being there. It's about letting go, even when it breaks you. Time passes differently when your heart is broken. Days don't feel like days anymore, they're just hours stitched together by habit. Wake up. Make coffee. Stare at your phone. Pretend you're fine. That's what life became after the wedding. I stopped expecting calls. I stopped checking social media. And most painfully, I stopped hoping that one day he'd walk through that front door again with the same warmth he used to have in his eyes. But motherhood doesn't come with an off switch. No matter how much it hurts, you still worry. You still wonder if he's eating well, if he's sleeping enough, if his smile is real or just for the camera. Every time I saw a mother and son together, at the grocery store, on the street, even in TV commercials, I'd feel something twist deep inside my chest. It wasn't jealousy. It was grief for something that used to be mine. A year passed. One whole year without Daniel coming home. On the anniversary of his father's death, I decided to visit the cemetery alone. I brought flowers, white lilies, his favorite. I placed them on the grave and whispered, "He got married, James. You would have been proud." The wind was cold but soft. It felt like he was listening. Then, for the first time in months, my phone rang. It was Daniel. "Mom," he said quietly. "I know what day it is. Are you okay?" I smiled through tears. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I was just talking to your dad. He was silent for a moment. I wish I'd gone with you. You still can, I said softly. There's always time. But I heard Emily's voice faintly in the background. We're late, Daniel. And just like that, the moment was gone. I'll call you later, Mom, he said. He didn't. A few weeks later, I decided to send him a small package, nothing special, just something from the heart. Inside was his favorite childhood blanket, a photo of us from when he was 5, and a short note that said, "You may have outgrown my lap, but you'll never outgrow my love." He didn't reply. But 2 days later, I saw a photo of him and Emily at a restaurant, celebrating their 1-year anniversary. The caption read, "To the woman who made me who I am today." I stared at those words for a long time. It wasn't jealousy that broke me, it was the truth in them. She had changed him. He wasn't my Daniel anymore. He was someone new, someone I barely recognized. Months turned into another year. I learned to live with the silence. I took up knitting, joined a small church group, and even started walking in the mornings. People said I looked peaceful. But peace is just another word for giving up on what hurts. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. "Mrs. Carter?" "Yes. This is Dr. Miller's office. Your son listed you as his emergency contact." My heart stopped. What happened? There was a minor accident. He's okay, but he's been admitted for observation. I dropped everything and rushed to the hospital. The world blurred around me, cars, people, noise, none of it mattered. All I could think was my son needs me. When I arrived, I saw him lying on the bed, pale but conscious. "Mom," he whispered, surprised. "How did you?" "They called me," I said, holding back tears. "You still put my name down." He smiled weakly. "I guess I never changed that." I sat beside him, brushing his hair gently like I used to. "What happened, Daniel?" "Car accident," he said softly. "A truck ran a red light. Emily's fine, she wasn't with me." I sighed in relief. Thank God. For the first time in years we talked, really talked. About his job, his life, his worries. He even laughed once, and it was like hearing music after a long silence. Then a nurse walked in. "Visiting hours are almost over." I looked at him, my eyes wet. "I'll come tomorrow, okay?" He nodded. "Thanks for being here, Mom." When I left that night, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe, just maybe, we were finding our way back. The next day, I returned with homemade soup and fresh flowers. But when I reached his room, it was empty. The nurse said he was discharged early this morning. His wife came to pick him up. I froze. "He didn't tell me." She shrugged gently. "Maybe he forgot." Forgot. That word again. It followed me like a shadow. I went home, set the soup on the table, and cried quietly. Not because he left, but because I realized something painful. He hadn't needed me. Not even now. Weeks later, I finally heard from him. A short message. "Thanks for being there, Mom. You're the best." Just those words. No call. No visit. But still, I clung to them like they were a lifeline. Because when you love someone that much, even crumbs of affection feel like a feast. Then one night, the phone rang again. But this time, it wasn't Daniel. It was Emily. "Mrs. Carter, I don't know who else to call," she said, her voice breaking. "Daniel's been distant lately. He's quiet. He doesn't talk to me anymore." I was stunned. "What happened?" She hesitated. "He says he feels lost. That he's tired all the time. I don't know what to do." My heart ached for both of them. "I'll talk to him," I said softly. "No," she said quickly. "He told me not to tell you." But I thought maybe you could pray for him. I stayed silent. Then said, I already do. Every night. When she hung up, I realized something. Even if she had taken him away from me, she was still human. Still trying. Still scared. That night, I wrote Daniel a letter. I didn't send it. I just wrote it because I needed to. My dear son. I don't know what you're going through, but I hope you remember this, I'm still here. No matter what's happened, no matter what's been said. You'll always have a home in my heart. I folded it and kept it in my drawer. Maybe one day, I'd give it to him. Or maybe I wouldn't have to. Maybe, somehow he'd just feel it. Months went by and slowly, I saw small changes. He started calling every other week. He sent pictures sometimes, not many, but enough to remind me he was still out there. One day he even said, Mom, I miss your cooking. Maybe I'll come by soon. That word, soon, became my new hope. I cleaned the house, cooked his favorite meals, even fixed the old curtains he always said looked too floral. Every evening, I'd wait, listening for the sound of his car. He didn't come that week. Or the next. But I kept waiting. Because that's what mothers do. We wait, long after everyone else has stopped believing they'll show up. Then one afternoon, I saw him again. Not in person, but on social media. Someone had posted a photo from a baby shower. Emily was glowing, holding her belly. And beside her, Daniel, smiling proudly. They were going to have a child. My first grandchild. And no one had told me. I sat there frozen, staring at the screen as tears filled my eyes. Joy, pain, confusion, all at once. I wanted to call him. To scream. To cry. But I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew the truth. If I wasn't there for his wedding, why would I be there for his child's beginning? That night, I sat by the window, looking at the stars again. I whispered, he's going to be a father, James. Can you believe it? Our little boy. The house was silent, but I could almost hear my late husband's voice saying, be patient, Mary. Love always finds its way home. I wanted to believe that. But love sometimes takes too long to return. That night, I sat by the window, staring at the moon. It was so full, so bright, the kind of night that once made me smile. But now it only reminded me how empty my heart had become. I could still hear the laughter from the video echoing in my head. We got married yesterday. Her voice, cheerful, proud, and unaware that every word was cutting me deeper. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to curse the woman who had taken my son away from me. But how could I? She wasn't cruel, just young, confident, maybe a bit thoughtless. The real pain came from him, my son, my own blood. The boy I carried for 9 long months, the boy I raised through sickness, hunger, and sleepless nights. The boy who once promised, Mama, I'll never leave you. And now, I wasn't even worth a phone call. I spent that night crying, but quietly. Not the loud, dramatic kind of crying, the silent kind that steals your breath and leaves your eyes swollen. The kind where your heart aches so much that even tears feel heavy. Around 3 a.m., I picked up my phone again, hoping maybe, just maybe, he had texted. But no. The last message from him was still that one line from 3 weeks ago, I'll call you soon, Ma. Soon never came. The next morning, my neighbor Shazia knocked at my door. She brought biryani and a fake smile. I heard the good news, she said softly. Congratulations. You didn't tell me your son got married. Her words stabbed me. I didn't know either, I whispered. Her face changed, pity, shock, confusion. She didn't know what to say, so she just handed me the dish and left quickly. The silence after she closed the door was louder than anything. I stared at that biryani for a long time. It smelled nice, the kind my son used to love. I used to make it for him on Sundays. He'd sit by the kitchen counter and joke, "Ma, no one cooks like you." Now I wondered if his new wife cooked better. If he laughed like that with her too. That evening, I couldn't take it any more. I called him again. Once, twice, 3 times. Finally, he picked up. "Ma?" His voice was calm, maybe a little nervous. "Beta," I said, trying to sound strong, "is it true? You got married?" There was a pause. A long one. Then he sighed. "Yes, Ma. It's true." My hands trembled. "And you didn't think I deserved to be there? To bless you? To see my son become a groom?" "Ma, it happened so fast. We didn't plan a big ceremony. It was just us, a few friends." "Us?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "And where was your mother in all this us?" He went silent again. I could hear faint sounds in the background, maybe his wife speaking, laughing. My heart sank deeper. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Ma," he said finally. "I just wanted things to be simple. You know how emotional you get." I let out a weak laugh. "Emotional? You didn't invite me to your wedding, and you think I'm emotional? What kind of son says that? Please, Ma. Don't make this harder. I'll visit soon, okay? We'll talk then." Before I could reply, the line disconnected. He had hung up. I stood there staring at the phone in disbelief. The silence felt cruel. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd faint. I sank onto the chair, clutching my chest. That moment, that silence after he hung up, felt like losing him all over again. Days passed, and I started seeing his wedding pictures online. Someone had tagged me in one of them, a cruel act, maybe unintentional, but it broke me. There he was, my son, in a black suit, smiling, holding her hand. Her face glowed, her eyes full of joy. He looked happy. Genuinely happy. And me? I was nowhere. I stared at the screen for hours. I zoomed in on his smile, his eyes, his posture. I remembered when I used to fix his collar before school, when I would pack his lunch, when I would kiss his forehead before exams. And now another woman stood beside him, fixing his tie, holding his hand, taking my place in every little thing. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I walked around the empty house, touching his old things, his trophies, his school books, the blanket he left behind. His room still smelled like him. I sat on his bed and whispered, "You promised you'd never forget me." But promises fade when hearts change. The next morning, I got a message from his wife. My heart raced as I opened it. "Hi, Mom. This is Sarah. I just wanted to say sorry if we made you upset. We wanted to tell you sooner, but things happened so quickly. We're planning to visit soon. I hope you'll forgive us." Mom. She called me Mom. I read that word over and over again. I should have felt happy, but it only made me cry harder. She meant well, I knew that. But forgiveness isn't that simple when you've been erased from your own child's life. I didn't reply that day. I couldn't. Instead, I went to the kitchen and made his favorite tea, cardamom and milk, the way he liked it. I placed the cup on the table, just the way I used to when he came home late. Then I sat across from it and waited. Waited like a fool. That evening, I walked outside and saw kids playing cricket in the street. One of them looked a bit like him. Same hair, same way of running. My heart skipped a beat before my mind reminded me, no, my son doesn't play here anymore. My son doesn't live here anymore. I went back inside and sat quietly until the adhan echoed through the air. As I prayed, tears fell on the prayer mat. I whispered, "Ya Allah, bring my son back to me. I don't want revenge. I just want his love again." For the first time in weeks, I felt a little peace, fragile but real. Maybe one day he would come. Maybe one day he'd remember his mother waiting by the window. But as I stood up, I looked at his empty chair and realized, maybe that day might never come. Still, I whispered softly, I'll keep waiting. Because that's what mothers do, even when their hearts are broken beyond repair.